We're joined now by United's Joint General Secretary, Tony Woodley. He's live from Westminster. Tony Woodley, thank you for joining us. Yesterday, the court threw it out on a technicality. Are you confident of your appeal?
Well, it's absolutely unbelievable, the decision yesterday, by any decision lately, and we've seen a few silly decisions here where judges have clearly ruled against workers in struggle. That's not a surprise in itself. They'll support business in their class. But the technicality on this one is absolutely incredible. And it does bring into question, as I said yesterday, as to whether it's now legally possible to have a legitimate and genuine dispute in our country. And we need to look at this. All of us now need to look at this.
You're going a bit far, aren't you, calling this a class war, in effect?
Well, it's not a question of going a bit far. The reality is this, that when you see 3 ballots, 80–90% of the workers voting to take a dispute, which we don't particularly want, let's not kid ourselves here, because what we've done with British Airways is to listen to their original appeal, which is we need a cost base and a restructuring that allows us to compete in a very competitive industry, and I accept that. If you've met those requirements and you've given the cost down, as well as helped them to solve their pensions deficit problem, then why is it that we've still got a dispute with Willie Walsh and British Airways? And the answer quite simply is this. This company don't just want to solve their business problems, they want to take our union out, and they want to victimise my members.
Clearly, there's no evidence for that. The engineers have settled, the pilots have settled, the crew at Gatwick, the crew at London City have settled. Why won't the crew at Heathrow?
Well, first of all, the agreements with our members on engineering and in baggage handling and the like, they're different agreements. Cabin crew have given more cost down and have offered more cost reductions than any other group of workers in British Airways. This is personal now with Willie Walsh and the union locally. He wants to take them out. And what we want to do, and what I want to do, is get a settlement that leaves the business fit for the future in this competition, but make sure that my members have not lost their travel in a petty and vindictive retaliation, and I don't end up with 54 people who are being disciplined for things like having a comment on Facebook. That can't be the right way to have a new beginning with a new agreement.
Tony Woodley, you know, some would also say that it's getting personal on your side here too. I mean, how do you respond to that? Because there seems to be no meeting of minds.
Well, let me make one thing very clear. I've dealt with most of the major executives globally in some of these companies. Personalities don't come into it. You know, it's business and business.
I'll tell you why I say that, Tony Woodley, because, I mean, we've had this volcanic ash cloud. It's going to cost the airline industry across Europe millions, if not over $1 billion. It's going to make life very difficult financially for British Airways, and you're just heaping misery on the company.
As I've explained to you, the company's original demand was for cost down and restructuring to allow it to compete. In principle, we've agreed that. We've agreed that. So the question we asked Willie Walsh today is, why are you continuing with your vindictive attack on my members and their families' travel concessions? It's pointless, it's needless. If there's going to be a penalty, that's not a problem. But when the penalty's over, in whatever time, then let's get everyone back to normal. But there's a far bigger fundamental point at stake here now. How can a judge sitting in chambers rule that just not disclosing everywhere for everyone 11 spoiled ballot papers can stop a legitimate dispute by thousands and thousands of workers who have voted in the ballot? And the answer quite simply is this. That judge has taken a political decision, no doubt encouraged by others, to sink workers in struggle. It's disgraceful, it's scandalous, and we will be in the High Court, as you quite rightly say, to appeal that decision today. And even if we lose the appeal, the dispute won't be over. We'll ballot our members and the dispute will go on, so we get a settlement that Willie Walsh and indeed the union feel comfortable with. And the sooner we do that, the better.
Now, some of these things that you have a squabble with British Airways over include things like an extra person in the premium cabin. This is something which was just added on in the 90s. It's not something actually contractual. So why are you so against things like that?
No, look, at the end of the day, I think you're very well aware that if there is an industry that is regulated absolutely, understandably, it is civil air transport. It's a dangerous game. You can't make mistakes, and the number of employees you have in the cabins to look after the passengers on safety and other grounds, you know, we've got to take that on board here. But as I've said, you know, we've negotiated seriously and sensibly. We managed to get some decent safeguards, in my view, that does protect people's wages and some of their flights going forward.